Hey everybody, it's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the St. Vitus basement, and today we are here with Lips of Anvil. Thank you for your time today.
No problem, man. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back in New York. It seems like you guys come back every year. You sick of us yet?
Or more.
Yeah. Sick of us yet?
Oh, hell no, man. Been coming here for years and years and years.
We love our metal here, and you guys are always welcome around.
Yeah, I think that's very apparent. It's been since 1982 we've been coming down to this area of the United States, and in actuality probably the first show that we ever did was in New Jersey at the Route 18 flea market.
Wow. And New Jersey's the sixth borough at this point.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I count it as really part of New York, and a great portion of the people that I made friends with at that particular show are still friends to this day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, your latest record is Pounding the Pavement, which came out in 2018. How's the record cycle been thus far?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, we've probably done well over 100 shows, if not more. So, yeah, it's been, and we're still not done.
Awesome. You guys have a lot of albums now at this point. Like, does it get harder to put a set list together when playing live?
Oh, absolutely, of course. I mean, where do you begin? Where does it end? Like, I mean, we have the standards from the first three albums that don't really move around much. You can't really not do March of the Crabs. You really can't not do Mothra. You really can't not do 666. You really can't not do Free as the Wind. As soon as you remove any of those and try to replace them with something else from that era, now you're missing the song that everybody would be asking for.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting. We'd, of course, been doing the song Forge and Fire for decades, right? But then, of course, we wrote This Is 13, which was important to at least utilize something from that album. Why not the title track? But in doing so, it kind of eliminated Forge and Fire because there's similar tempos as well as keys. So wherever they sit in the set list, it's one or the other, not both, because otherwise it's kind of becomes redundant. I like to make the set move through the different textures, and I don't like to have the same texture more than once or in a set.
Absolutely.
So that became like that. So you don't do Forge and Fire, and people go, how come you don't do it? But then again, when we weren't doing Free as the Wind, everybody would ask, where's that?
Yeah. Can't please everybody.
So you bring in Free as the Wind, everybody's going, where's Forge and Fire? If I brought Forge and Fire back, everybody go, where's Free as the Wind? So how do you win?
You can't.
You can't. So the other thing is that's extremely important to me is that every song rocks the shit out of the place. That it is nothing less than stellar.
Yeah.
That every song that you pick is as good as the last on the level of the popularity and how it gleams as one of your long live songs.
Definitely.
You don't want to do something that it sounds okay live, but people are gonna be missing this or that or the other, or it's not quite the same as the album version. You want it to be as close to the best it can be as you can get.
Definitely. Now, being, as I mentioned before, that you have like a bunch of albums out, and you've been touring since 1982, with each record, do you still tend to take a new approach to every album, or do you kind of have like a formula that you always stick with, like a usual go-to songwriting mode?
No, it's not really. It's not a formula as such. It's more about finding the diversity. It's about finding the diversity, and it's really more, for me, it's finding the right, and what I call by feel, it's what feel it is in the sense of what tempo of a song, what key. So if I go hunting for a song, I'm going to be going, well, I need something fast in the key of B because I've already got fast in the key of E, so I need something in another key. So I'll put parameters on stuff, but not as far as what the actual riffs might be or anything like that. But certainly, well, I'm looking for something fast and I'm looking for something in the key of B. So I'll sit there for an hour and a half and riff dozens of things in the key of B, and then I go, oh, I like that. That's cool. Yeah. And then I'll go for that, and then we'll elaborate and it will grow into a song.
And the world has changed so much since 1982 with new bands coming out and new, I'm sure you guys have definitely seen a lot. Has the world changing in your career ever influenced your music at all?
It actually hasn't.
Oh, really?
No, I don't, because I never really paid attention to what's going on in the world to begin with, and that goes back right to the first album. We didn't fit into a category or even from the first album. I mean, it was a rock and roll and rock album, really, but and that's environmental. I would say it's in what I was listening to and what was around in my world is what influences stuff. So it's not necessarily what's in the current world as much as in my own personal, what I'm listening to and what turns my crank.
Okay, so it's fair to say that your source of inspiration for songwriting comes from within.
Yeah, to a great degree. It's not like I'm not listening to the newest, to the newest Iron Maiden and going, well, what can I do that sounds like them? No, no.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Now, I'm sure many journalists have asked you this, and I apologize if you're sick of being asked this, but I've always thought your album titles packed a punch with the alliteration, Pounding the Pavement, right. Forged in Fire, Metal on Metal, you name it. Is there a specific reason why you've always done that?
No, it kind of fell into it. The first album, of course, we were still called Lips, and we called it Hard and Heavy. When we took it into the record label, they went, you know what? Lips is not a very good name for what they're calling heavy metal now. It's going to be very hard for people to discern Lips from Hot Lips or Lips Incorporated. You're going to be, we need some kind of name that depicts what you're going to be standing for and what kind of music you're going to be creating, so that there's no misunderstanding when people go look at the cover. Well, this must be a disco band. They want to know just by the name of the band what they're buying. So come back with something that works. And we had dozens and dozens of names, which actually in the end of the day, we were so much at the beginning, we had come up with all the names that came to be. So what eventually we just kind of, Rob came up with, well, why don't we call the band Anvil, and what could be more metal than that? And we said, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. And then all of a sudden it came to realize, well, wait a second, Anvil, hard and heavy. Oh, that there it is, man. No question about it.
Bread and butter.
The album was already called Hard and Heavy, and now all we did was change it to the proper real name that goes with the name of the album.
Yeah, and I feel like every album you've been put out since then actually goes along with your title. I feel like your album titles go along.
That's right, and after, of course, discovering that, it's like, okay, when it came to do the second album, I'd come up with the riff for Metal on Metal, and as I'm riffing it, I go, you know what that sounds like? It's saying? And they go, what do you mean it's saying? I go, it's singing to me. It sounds like it's going, metal on metal. And they went, oh, fuck, that's an alliteration too. Okay, we'll call it, yeah. And it's like, and then, of course, the song was written in 10 minutes. Rob suggested, every line should start with metal on metal, da 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 da, metal on metal, da 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 da. I went, yeah, because the riff stays the same. Sure, yeah. That it all makes sense. The song was written in 10 minutes, and well, that says it all.
It seems like all the classic metal songs were written in such a short period of time.
Well, yeah, and that's extremely important. And boy, did I come to realize that. The harder you work at something, the further you get from the mark. Yeah. It's actually The stuff that works the best is the stuff sitting right on the top of your subconscious that you come up with in a split second that has the most power and the longevity.
Yeah.
It's actually quite fascinating, really. And as of the last 4 albums, it's become somewhat of a rule. The songs have to come together in 15 minutes.
You know, because, I mean, there are some bands now that write songs that are like 27 and a half minutes long.
And it takes them a month to write it.
Yeah.
Well, and it takes the audience 6 months to absorb it. And
So-
what do you think that does to sales?
I mean, you never know. I mean, everybody interprets music differently, but I think in the end, what you guys do is it's quick and to the point and in your face from start to finish, and I think that's what makes Anvil Anvil.
Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, we have the songs that have taken a little bit more ingenuity and a little bit longer to put together, but still, even in their complexity, there's an underlying simplicity to it. I'd like to think that, you know, it's easy to sit there and go, well, that song's just so simple. It's simple to listen to, but in many, many cases, in a lot of our songs, it's really fucking hard to play it.
Yeah. Well, to the average listener.
It sounds easy as hell. Okay, figure it out and now play it.
Do you know how many people said Sweet Child O' Mine is easy, and then you see them play that opening riff at a Guitar Center, and it's always a half step out of tune, and they mess up every note in the way, so...
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's sometimes things that... I mean, you know, it's like I say, it could be very simple to listen to, but it could actually be extremely difficult to actually play.
Of course. And I have 2 more questions for you, if that's cool.
Sure.
Coming from, I forgot where in Canada. You guys are from Ontario.
Toronto, Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah.
So coming from Canada around that time, there's so many great bands coming out of that region now, but at the time that you started, was there like a metal scene or a rock scene in Canada?
No, actually it was... We were really frowned upon, and we had a really, really tough time. 90% of our shows were out of province. We actually went to Quebec.
Okay.
And now Quebec is the longest, and they're just winning they're being called the heavy metal center of Canada now. I don't know if you know who Jimmy. I gotta think. Jimmy K.
Okay.
He's the metal voice.
Okay.
He's actually part of the whole sighting, and they're putting out a big deal about it right now. But the truth is, for 40 years, 40 fucking years ago, and this is no shit, okay? Back in 1980 or 1977, when we first went out, really the only clubs in all of Canada that had rock music that could be anywhere near called metal were in Quebec.
Really?
That's right.
That's insane.
Well, that's really the way it was, and it was really, really difficult to get a gig outside of Quebec. Like playing in Ontario was very, very difficult, and most of which was all cover bands. So you couldn't even, and we were not, when we went out with a lot of balls, in the sense that we had 30 originals and like virtually, I think, maybe 5 copy tunes. We went out to Quebec City, that's in the sort of northern part of the province of Quebec. And that was our first gig in February 1978. Wow. Okay, so we went out there and we started playing, and people coming out to check us out, and they're going, wow, it's like we were playing all original material. Mm-hmm. And when we pulled in, of course, the lady goes, well, you know, we like to have a progressive band. We want, how you say, keyboard? You got no keyboard? Because, of course, they were really into prog rock, and like it's very advanced. Like Quebec was really much like going to England.
Yeah.
It's the most European part of North America, really.
Yeah.
But we were heavy enough to actually draw interest from the audience. They're going, oh, these guys are like a Scorpions, or maybe even like Ted Nugent. This is okay.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, the Monday night, everybody showed up to check it out. and then by the weekend it's packed. So it's like it was a success.
Yeah.
When we got back, of course, we needed to be booked in Ontario. We can't just keep going back to Quebec City. There's only one show. So when we got back, we played a club in Toronto that was called the Young Station, and we were trying to get into the Gasworks, which was our, I guess, next to kin to the Marquee in London, England. It's just where the rock bands were. If you're going to get a record deal, that's where it's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, the guy wouldn't hire us, but they sent the agents and stuff down to the Young Station. And of course, by the Friday night, the place is packed. People are hearing about this crazy rock band that's playing all originals. And of course, the Gasworks going, "No, we're not going to hire you. You're playing all your all your own songs." And the agent comes and watches us, and I'm literally swinging on the chandeliers, dropping to my knees, and playing lead guitar in front of the guy, doing my whole shtick, playing my guitar with the vibrator. The guy goes, "I'm not hiring your band in the Gasworks. Your pants were dirty." Because that's what his excuse was.
Oh, there's always an excuse for everything.
Yeah, so it took 2 years beyond that point before. And it was to the point where we'd play the club up the street, and it would be ram-packed Monday through Saturday. And the place down the street, the Gasworks, is empty because everybody's coming to see the Lips band at the Young Station.
I bet he regretted that decision.
Well, he began to regret it, and begrudgingly, he let us play the Gasworks.
Finally.
Okay, so by the end of the week of the first time we played the Gasworks, we got our first record deal.
Awesome. There you go.
That's how that all felt, and it was a long haul, and that meant, and what happened in those 2 years before, we played every shithole from the south of Montreal to the north of Quebec.
You know what? Some of those shitholes are sentimental.
And yeah, they're absolutely sentimental, and it's where we learned to put on a show, because of course they didn't speak English, so it was all about a show, all about a live show, all about everything that it takes to entertain an audience without having to talk.
Yeah. I've seen plenty of shithole venues, and part of me asks myself, for very little money you can make this place seem somewhat presentable, but I think they just make it that way on purpose.
Well, I mean, I have a theory about that. Shitholes are usually your best gigs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
It just is. It's not the brand new place with the new paint job. It's a place that's got graffiti all over the place. The cigarette burns all over the floor. The smell of old stale cigarettes and beer sticky floor. That's where that's where the rock audience flourishes.
Yep. And you got to make sure also it has a shitty PA system.
Yeah. Or adequate.
Yeah.
It's usually just adequate.
So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else you'd like to promote for the Pounding the Pavement record cycle? Any tours or new music we could be expecting?
Well, we're going to have a new album out in 2020. We're going in October to record in Germany, in the same place with the same producers and everything as the last album, and we anticipate it to be absolutely amazing. From what I can tell, it's very much another Anvil album. We haven't lost our direction at all. Awesome. on any level. I think that it's going to have. Well, I know that it has the best fast stuff that we've ever done and the best slow stuff. So that's kind of a good thing.
Awesome.
So there's relatable stuff that is attached to our motor mount, our 666 and our Forge and Fire and our Metal on Metal. There's stuff still attached to those original formats of songs, which is what makes Anvil Anvil. So I think that the fans will be particularly most delighted. Anybody who hated us before will still hate us, and quite frankly, I don't give a shit.
That's the best way to put it, man.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, Lips, thank you so much for your time today. Everybody, Lips of Anvil. Pick up Pounding the Pavement if you haven't already. New music coming in 2020. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York, everybody.